I unboxed the Prodigy V2 and put it together. Ride1Up says it arrives about 85% assembled. At first glance, it looks solid. The frame is aluminum, and the cables aren't beautifully hidden, but they feel secure. The display is quite small, and in bright sunlight, I had to angle it to read it, which was a bit annoying. Everyday ride feel. Once it was ready, I took it on my morning ride. The first thing I noticed was how smooth the assist felt. The Brose mid-drive motor with torque sensing steps in gently, no jerky surge, which made starting at lights feel natural. I rode mostly in tour mode and was able to cruise easily at speeds up to 28 miles per hour when I pushed a bit. The bike corners confidently. The geometry and 27.5-inch wheels, paired with 2.25-inch Maxxis Recon race tires, make it feel stable even at higher speeds. Riding through city streets and light trail detours felt solid. Suspension and tires. The air spring suspension fork, about 100 millimeters travel, is surprisingly decent on city cracks and speed bumps. It softens impacts without being sloppy. That makes daily commuting more comfortable than on a rigid bike or a cheaper coil suspension. The tires grip well even on patchy pavement, though they add a bit of rolling resistance compared to smoother commuter tires. Good for mixed terrain, less for pure speed. Shifting and drive system. I tested the belt drive CVT version, which means there's no chain or derailleur. Instead, gear changes happen inside a smooth internal hub. You twist the grip shifter, and the bike responds instantly. No clunky shifts, no drop chain. The gearing range feels wide too, making climbs feel easy even at slow speeds. Maintenance is minimal. I haven't had to clean or oil anything. And after riding around 1,800 miles with someone else on Reddit, they said their bike works flawlessly, in all weather, with no cleaning. Battery and range. On a 25-mile round-trip commute with about 400-foot elevation, one Reddit user kept assist on the second lowest level and had plenty left. Maybe 40 miles total easily possible. Reviews put range in tour mode at about 50 to 65 miles. Eco mode could push beyond 80 to 90 miles depending on weight and terrain. I matched those numbers. About 60 miles in tour mode felt realistic and comfortable. In boost mode, I drained faster, about 30 miles. But that's expected. Braking and safety. The 4-piston Tektro hydraulic disc brakes feel strong and offer good modulation. In panic stops and downhill braking, they inspire confidence. Stopping distance is solid, and I felt in control even carrying gear or on uneven surfaces. Comfort, fit, and practical stuff. The saddle is firm but supportive after a few rides. The handlebar grips are ergonomic and lock firmly. Integrated front and rear lights work fine in typical city lighting conditions. The rear rack and included fenders mean you're reasonably ready for commuting right out of the box. That said, the single frame size feels snug if you're taller than about 6 feet 2. I'm around that height, and while I made it work with adjustments like a longer seat post, taller riders sometimes report feeling cramped. One reviewer said their frame feels just slightly scrunched. Pros I appreciate. Smooth and consistent pedal assist that feels intuitive. Very low maintenance, belt drive, internal hub, minimal cleaning needed. Air fork and knobby tires add ride comfort for mixed terrain. Strong brakes, stable handling, and built-in commuter extras. Excellent range in eco and tour modes, even under heavier riders. Limitations and real talk. The weight is a real factor. It's not ideal for hopping around or riding without assist. Fit may be uncomfortable for taller riders unless adjusted. The frame is one size. Display size is small and can be hard to read in bright light. While cables work well, I'd prefer cleaner internal routing. Tires are versatile but slightly slower rolling on pavement. Final thoughts. All in all, I've found the Prodigy V2 to be a satisfying daily rider. It doesn't feel like a bargain basement model. It has strong components like the Brose motor, Enviolo CVT, air fork, hydraulic brakes, and even good tires and saddle. All parts I'd expect on bikes costing thousands more. If you want an e-commuter that rides smooth, requires little upkeep, and offers good range and comfort, this is a great pick. Just keep in mind its heft, the fit limitations, and the compact display. That's my honest experience. Hope that helps you get a feel for what it's like to live with the Prodigy V2 day to day. When the Mycle Cargo arrived, I was struck by its sheer size and weight. It's not subtle. Assembly took a couple of hours, installing the front wheel, handlebars, lights, pedals. Instructions were clear, though if you're not handy, a professional tune-up is worth considering. The paint job was clean, and everything felt solid, but it definitely feels built for purpose, not showroom sleek. It's heavy, around 33-36 kg, and if you add a second battery, even more. Maneuvering it in tight spaces requires some planning. Comfort and everyday use. Riding the Mycle Cargo is surprisingly intuitive. You sit tall, upright, and though long at about 1.87 meters, it steers nimbly. Those chunky 20 inches wide CST tires absorb bumps nicely. The saddle is cushy, and handlebars are easy to reach. Even my partner at 6'2" found it comfortable after a bit of adjustment. There's no suspension, which means rough roads can get a bit jarring. But for everyday urban rides or canal paths, it handles well enough. The large tires take the edge off. Carrying cargo. This is what it's made for. The rear deck and optional running boards felt sturdy under groceries, equipment, the kids. My 11-year-old hopped on for a school run and felt safe and stable. The rack holds up to 125 kg, while the total bike plus rider plus load rating is around 210 kg. I didn't max it out, but the bike handled loads easily. Even on steeper hills, it felt much more stable than I expected. Electric assist. The Mycle Cargo packs a 250-watt rear hub motor, delivering about 65 Newton-meters torque, with 3 or 5 power modes, depending on model. It climbs hills with ease. Hills that'd have me walking on a non-electric bike. There is a slight delay when starting from a stop. You need to pedal one crank before full assist kicks in. It's not ideal if you frequently stop and start with a heavy load. Battery-wise, the 60-kilometer version suits daily errands. Choosing 2 batteries bumps range up to around 120 kilometers, handy for longer rides or days out. Charging takes roughly 5 hours via a standard plug. Cold weather will reduce range noticeably, so plan accordingly. Brakes and gears. Earlier models used mechanical disc brakes, but newer ones come with Tektro hydraulic discs. They stop confidently, even when loaded. That upgrade makes a real difference in ride confidence. It has a Shimano Altus 7-speed drivetrain, reliable and responsive, even with heavy cargo. The shifting stays smooth, aiding control on hills. Controls are simple. A basic LCD display, now standard, shows speed, distance, battery, assist level. No GPS or fancy connectivity, but it's easy to read at a glance. Real-world benefits. Cost, coming in around £2,299, £2,799 for the long-range version. It's significantly cheaper than premium cargo bikes that can hit £5,000 plus. Eco-friendly trips. It replaced several car runs for me, school drop-offs, shopping, errands. Built to adapt, you can customize it with baskets, child seats, weather shields, panniers. Limitations to consider. Size and storage. Its length and weight make it hard to store in small flats or garages. Startup lag. That delay from stop to power is noticeable, especially on hills. Finish isn't premium. The frame looks functional rather than sleek. Cable routing and battery placement are utilitarian. Accessories extras. Some add-ons, lock, panniers, running boards cost extra, so budget more if you need them. Final take. I genuinely like the Mycle Cargo. It feels like a reliable workhorse, strong, capable, and thoughtfully designed to do cargo bike things without fuss. It won't win any beauty contests, and it's not a nimble commuter on crowded bike lanes, but it does haul, climb, and carry with purpose. If you want a practical, eco-friendly alternative to car trips, especially if you regularly carry kids, groceries, or bulky items, and you're after value over flash, the Mycle Cargo delivers. It has quirks, but its core job, transporting real stuff in the real world, is done well, honestly, and affordably. I first heard about the CGO600 Pro when tech sites praised its slim silhouette and clean looks. The down tube hides a removable 360 watt-hour battery, and cables tuck away neatly. When I pulled it out of the box, I noticed it felt lighter than most e-bikes. around 17 kilograms, 37 pounds, bare bones. Assembly was straightforward: attach bars, pump tires, mount seat, and I was riding. On the road. Right from my first ride, the CGO600 Pro felt more like a regular bike with a boost, not a bulky electric contraption. The magnetic torque sensor responds the moment you pedal, and the support is smooth, with no noticeable delay. I used the lowest assist level for gentle help on flats, and the top level when hurrying between meetings. With a 250 WAU rear hub motor, it hit the legal assist cap of 20 miles per hour, 32 kilometers per hour. Climbing steeper hills requires more leg effort since it's single speed and lacks gears. The bike handles moderate grades okay, but on anything steeper than 10%, I felt the strain. Comfort and handling. Because it's light and nimble, weaving through city traffic is effortless. The narrowish tires and stiff aluminum frame mean you feel road bumps more than on cushioned bikes. I learned to lower tire pressure a bit and keep speed moderate to improve comfort. Still, it's not built for rough paths. It shines on smooth roads. Maintenance and durability. One huge relief is the carbon belt drive. No greasy chain, no rust in wet weather, and it's quiet as a whisper. Reports suggest it can last over 18,000 miles. Awesome for minimal upkeep. I never had to clean or lube it. Hydraulic Tektro disc brakes grabbed well, though I did get a local bike shop to fine-tune them during a brake squeal. Worth it for safer stops. The app connects via Bluetooth, shows range, trip data, and even locks the bike. I used it daily to check estimated range. Very helpful. Plus, I toggled assist levels without stopping. Range and battery. I regularly got 50 to 55 miles, 80 to 90 kilometers, on mixed rides, which matches the 53-mile. The battery is removable, so charging at home or the office is easy. A full charge takes around 4 hours. I haven't had the bike die mid-trip, but on colder days I noticed a bit less range, around 10 to 15% reduction, but no surprise there. What I loved. Light and slick design, feels like a regular bike, not a bulky commuter. Effortless belt drive. Maintenance practically vanished with no chain to oil or clothes to dirty. Responsive motor. Torque sensor gives smooth and strong support right when you ask for it. Removable battery and app. Handy for charging and monitoring range on the go. Looks sleek, gets comments, and doesn't scream, e-bike. What could be better? No gears. Single speed makes hill climbing harder and can limit top-end pace. Limited hill power. Motor is good, but not built for steep inclines. Brake setup required. Hydraulic brakes were awkward at first. Final thoughts. After over 6 months of riding this bike daily, I feel confident recommending it for urban riders like me who want something light enough to carry upstairs or toss on a rack. Prefer a clean, low-maintenance setup. Use it mostly on city streets and need moderate pedal support. Don't need to tackle steep hills or off-road paths. The CGO600 Pro delivers pleasant everyday rides, solid range, and simplicity. It isn't for climbers or rough terrain explorers, but as a commuter, it's been dependable and enjoyable. If you're okay choosing comfort over rough terrain smoothing and value ease of care, this bike is a smart pick without feeling like you're buying into hype. I've been riding a regular hybrid for years, but the stop-and-go traffic on my 10-mile round-trip commute started wearing me down. I wanted an e-bike that could give me motor help on steep city bridges, yet still feel like a bicycle, not a scooter. The WAU Bike, specifically the X Plus Tourer version, caught my eye because of its claimed 100-mile assisted range and the row of LED lights built into the frame. Those two features promised fewer charging sessions and better nighttime visibility, so I took the plunge last spring. First impressions on the road. The first thing I noticed was the weight. At roughly 27 kilograms, about 60 pounds, the bike feels heavy the moment you lift it off its kickstand. Rolling it out of my apartment lobby is fine, but carrying it up, even a short flight of steps, is a workout I never asked for. Once you're moving, though, that heft fades. The cadence-based motor assistance comes on smoothly, and staying below the 20 miles per hour cutoff keeps the power flowing without drama. I quickly learned to spin the pedals a bit faster on hills instead of mashing, which makes the ride feel natural rather than jerky. Living with it day to day. Battery life has been the headline feature. My commute plus 2 grocery runs, about 65 miles total, still leaves the battery at roughly 45%. I charge only twice a week using the faster 6-hour supercharger brick. The standard charger would take a full night. The pack slides out of the down tube after you unlock 2 chunky steel latches. They're fiddly with gloves on, but the upside is security. The same mechanism arms a built-in motion alarm and activates GPS tracking, so I finally worry less about cafe stops. The lighting package feels over-engineered in the best way. When I power the bike on, 2 bright red strips in the rear stays illuminate automatically, and the side panels under the battery glow with the WAU logo. Indicators on the bar let me flash amber turn signals, handy in heavy traffic where arm gestures get lost. I do wish WAU had included a front turn signal to complete the loop, but drivers still seem to notice the rear lights. At night, the setup draws curious looks and, more importantly, gives me confidence that I'm visible from the sides. The color LCD shows speed, assist level, and remaining miles in numbers big enough to glance at without squinting. In direct sunlight, the screen washes out a bit, so I've started relying on the battery percentage rather than the range estimate when the sky is bright. The handlebar controls are basic membrane buttons. They work, yet they're positioned so close to the grip that I sometimes trigger the horn instead of a power change. What I love. True long-range riding. Even after a 40-mile Saturday ride into the suburbs, I still have juice for errands. I no longer carry a charger in my backpack. All-in-one visibility, integrated brake lights and indicators mean no extra clip-on lights to recharge or forget. Security baked in. The alarm is loud enough to turn heads, and GPS tracking gives real peace of mind. Upright geometry. The single-size frame fits my 5'9" height well and keeps my back relaxed on longer rides. Where it falls short. Weight. Carrying 60 pounds upstairs or onto a train platform is a non-starter. This is a ground floor bike, period. Long charge on the slow brick. If you don't buy the supercharger, a full refill takes about 12 hours. Fit limitations. Friends under 5'5" struggle to get both feet down, while riders over 6 feet 2" say the bar feels low. Stock saddle. After 3 weeks, I swapped it for a softer perch. The original felt like a plank on rough pavement. App lag. The companion smartphone app sometimes takes a minute to wake the GPS, so real-time tracking isn't always real-time. Final thoughts. After 6 months, the WAU Bike has become my default transport for everything inside a 30-mile radius. The massive battery and showy lighting make daily riding easy and safe, and I appreciate not having to babysit detachable lights or range anxiety. That said, its sheer bulk is the constant trade-off. If your routine involves stairs or tight storage, think twice. For riders who value range, security, and nighttime presence over outright portability, the WAU Bike feels less like a gadget and more like a reliable, slightly futuristic companion. I can't call it perfect, but I no longer dread hills or late rides home, and that alone makes the wait worth hauling. When I first saw the Ribble Hybrid ALE, I didn't even realize it was electric. That was one of the reasons I bought it. I wanted something that looked like a regular bike, but could help me get up hills and go a little farther without making it obvious I was on an e-bike. The design is very clean. The battery is hidden in the frame, and the motor is in the rear hub, so unless you're really looking for it, you won't notice it's electric. Lifting the bike also surprised me. It's lighter than I expected for an e-bike. I can carry it up the 2 steps to my porch without much trouble. That already made it feel more manageable for daily use. How it rides. Riding the Ribble Hybrid ALE feels very natural. It's not like some e-bikes where the motor kicks in too strong or feels jerky. This one gives a gentle push, just enough to take the edge off, especially when starting from a stop or going uphill. I still feel like I'm doing the work, but I don't end up out of breath all the time. There are 3 assist levels, and I mostly use the middle one. It gives me enough help without draining the battery too fast. On flat ground, I sometimes turn the motor off completely and pedal on my own. The bike still rolls well even without power, which isn't always the case with electric bikes. One thing I noticed is that the motor won't help you above a certain speed. That's fine for city riding, but if you like to go fast, the support fades out once you reach a certain point. I just keep pedaling, but the transition can feel a little sudden at times. Daily use and range. I use the bike mostly for commuting and errands, about 8 to 10 miles a day, with a few longer rides on weekends. The battery has been enough for several days of short trips before needing a charge. On one longer ride, I got around 50 miles with a mix of assist levels and terrain. That felt pretty decent to me. Charging is pretty straightforward, but one small downside is that the battery isn't removable unless you take apart the crank. That means I have to bring the whole bike inside or near an outlet. It's not a huge deal for me, but I can see how it might be annoying for people who live in apartments or don't have easy access to a plug. Comfort and handling. The riding position is upright and comfortable. It's not a racing bike feel, more like a relaxed hybrid. I added a more padded saddle for longer rides, but the stock one was fine for short trips. The carbon fork helps with road vibration a bit, and the tires are wide enough to give some cushion without feeling too heavy. The bike handles well. It feels stable on roads, bike paths, and even light gravel. I've taken it on a few canal paths and rougher trails, and it did okay. Not a mountain bike by any means, but it didn't feel out of place either. I wouldn't take it on really bumpy terrain though. What I've liked most about the Ribble Hybrid ALE is how it blends in. It looks like a normal bike and it rides like one too, just with a little help. It's quiet, smooth, and doesn't make a big show of being electric. I also really like how light it is compared to other e-bikes I've tried. The build quality feels solid, the gears shift well, and the brakes have been reliable even in the rain. I also went with the version that comes with a rack and mud guards, and both have held up nicely. What could be better? If I had to point out a few downsides, I'd say the main one is the charging situation. Not having a removable battery can be limiting depending on your setup at home. Also, while the assist is smooth, it's not the most powerful out there. If you need something that gives a strong push up really steep hills, this might not be enough for you. The companion app is okay, but I didn't find myself using it much. Some features cost extra, like offline maps, which felt a bit annoying. I mostly just ride and use the button on the top tube to change assist levels. Final thoughts. Overall, the Ribble Hybrid 8IL/E has fit into my daily life better than I expected. It doesn't feel like I'm riding a gadget. It just feels like a good bike that happens to help me when I need it. It's not perfect, but the balance of weight, looks, and smooth support has made it one of my favorite bikes to ride. If you're looking for an e-bike that doesn't try too hard to look electric and just works quietly in the background, this one is worth considering. When I first saw the Cowboy Cruiser, I was impressed by how clean and minimal it looked. There aren't a lot of visible wires or buttons, it just looks like a regular stylish bike. That design made a good first impression. The frame has a smooth matte finish, and the integrated lights look neat and modern. I like that it didn't scream e-bike, but once I started riding it, I could definitely feel the electric help. The setup process wasn't too hard, but it was very app-dependent. You need the Cowboy app on your phone to unlock and ride the bike, and it connects over Bluetooth. That part worked okay for me, though I can see how it could be annoying if your phone is dead or the app acts up. Still, once everything was connected, I was excited to take it out for a ride. Riding around the city. The first thing I noticed on the road was how natural the pedal assistance felt. It doesn't jerk forward or push you too hard. The motor kicks in gently and increases power smoothly as you pedal. It really feels like you're just having a strong day on the bike rather than being powered. This made it ideal for my daily rides around the city. Hills that used to leave me breathless were suddenly manageable. I still had to pedal, but it felt like the bike was giving me a helping hand. There's only one gear, which at first I thought might be limiting, but the motor support made it a non-issue for urban riding. I wouldn't want to take it up a mountain trail, but for flat to moderately hilly city streets, it's excellent. One thing I appreciated was how quiet the bike is. The motor hums gently, and there's no chain rattle since it uses a belt drive. That also means less maintenance, which is great for someone like me who doesn't want to deal with greasy parts. What I like most. The best part about the Cowboy Cruiser for me is the ride quality. It feels stable, smooth, and comfortable. The power delivery is smart. It doesn't just turn on and off, but gradually changes depending on how hard I'm pedaling. That makes it need more like a regular bike and less like a scooter. The design is also a highlight. People often ask me what kind of bike it is when I stop at lights. It just looks different in a good way. I also appreciate the built-in lights and GPS tracking. There's a theft alert feature through the app, which is reassuring when I lock the bike up in public. Also, the app sends maintenance reminders and lets me check battery health, ride statistics, and bike location. When it works smoothly, it's a really helpful tool. What's been frustrating? Unfortunately, not everything has been smooth. While the bike itself is well made, the customer service behind it has been a real weak point. I've read many stories and had my own experience where response times from Cowboy were very slow. Once, I had a small issue with the rear light and it took me weeks to get a reply, and even longer to get the part. Also, delivery timelines seem to be all over the place. I was lucky that mine came on time, but many other people I've talked to said they waited months beyond the promised date. If you're planning to order one, just be prepared that the wait might be longer than expected. Repairs are another tricky part. Cowboy doesn't have a big service network, so when something goes wrong, you either need to wait for Cowboy to send a tech, which can take a while, or find a local bike shop that understands e-bikes and is willing to work on it. In my area, that's not easy. Some shops won't even touch it because it's too high-tech. Battery life and maintenance. In terms of range, I usually get about 40 to 45 kilometers, 25 to 28 miles per charge, which is enough for a few days of commuting for me. I never got close to the advertised 70 kilometers, but I ride with full assistance most of the time, so that makes sense. The battery is removable, which is useful if you don't want to carry the whole bike upstairs to charge it. Maintenance-wise, there's not much I've had to do so far, but from what I hear, brake maintenance becomes a regular task after the first year, and spare parts aren't easy to get quickly. So while the bike doesn't require a lot early on, if something breaks, be ready for delays. Final thoughts. I've really enjoyed riding the Cowboy Cruiser. It's smooth, quiet, and helps me get around the city faster and with less effort. The styling is modern, and it draws positive attention. For short to medium city commutes, it fits perfectly into my routine, but it's not a perfect experience. The weak customer service, parts delays, and lack of a strong repair network are real downsides. If you're lucky and don't run into problems, you'll probably love it. But if something does go wrong, you might be in for a frustrating time. I still ride mine almost daily, and so far, I've been fortunate. If you're considering it, I'd say weigh the quality of the ride against the possible service issues. It's a great bike, but it's attached to a company that still seems to be figuring things out. When I first brought the bike home, I noticed how light it felt. Definitely under 20 kills, even though it's full carbon. First spin around the block and I thought, wow, this is nimble. That 14.9 kills carbon frame, for the LTD version, really cuts down on heft and gave me confidence from the get-go. Riding feel and handling. The SL 1.2 mid-drive motor is a quiet, smooth helper. No janky surging, just seamless support when I pedal. It's got enough torque, about 50 Nm, to get me through medium hills without huffing and puffing. Personally, I liked riding in trail mode. It gives me a workout while still making uphill and crosswind riding comfortable. It handles like a regular bike, sharp, intuitive. The slacker head tube plus wide 47mm tires help it grip corners and feel planted. Whether darting through city streets or winding on park paths, I felt in control. Comfort and road smoothing. Even though it's just 20mm of travel, the spring damper under the stem reduces jarring from potholes and rough pavement. It doesn't soak up like a mountain bike, but it keeps vibrations out of my hands. I didn't even think about it midday, it just works. The 700C backs 47mm hemisphere tires add cushion and traction. On varied surfaces, pathway grit, wet leaves, they stayed composed. I could have gone for slightly knobbier up to 56mm, but these felt ideal for city rides. Daily use practicalities? Battery life has been solid. On medium assist, I consistently get around 30 to 35 miles per charge. For flatter rides, other owners report even better efficiency, up to 40 miles plus. And there's an optional range extender bottle that adds around 160 watt if I know I'm riding long. I tested the equipped version with a rear Mycle HD rack, full fenders, kickstand, and integrated lights. The rack easily handles groceries or a small pannier, and there's room to mount a child seat or trailer out back, up to 41 kilograms capacity, Front mounts support a small rack too. It's genuinely useful for everyday errands. The Mastermind H3 colored display is clear and responsive, and the handlebar joystick works smoothly. I like syncing data to the specialized app, track heart rate, cadence, rides, and get maintenance alerts. Anti-theft features like System Lock and Apple Find My gave me peace of mind. What I loved. Feels like a real bike. Light, agile, responsive, not clunky or heavy. Smooth and natural pedal support, great for staying active without struggling uphill. Comfort and control, future shock plus wide tires equals enjoyable ride all day. Practical kit, rack lights, fenders, tech, all ready for commuting life. Robust battery, reliable 30-40 mile range without frequently needing recharges. Realistic limitations. Disc brakes aren't super strong. Stopping power is decent but not aggressive. Front light is dimmer on dark pathways. Got by with a secondary light on country roads. Gear shifts occasionally less crisp. The 12-speed derailleur sometimes feels a bit clunky. Battery not user removable. Charging means wheeling the whole bike or using a service center. Crosswinds can be tricky. Some riders felt the wider fenders and rake increased sensitivity. A high price tag. You pay a premium for carbon, components, and features. It's a significant investment. Final thoughts. If you want an e-bike that's light, sporty, and urban-ready, the Vado SL2 Carbon stands out. It doesn't feel like a mini motorbike. It feels like an enhanced road bike, but one that's genuinely ready for errands and weekend fun. Comfort features are subtle yet effective, and the battery and cargo options make it practical, not just flashy. Still, it's not perfect. Stopping power, light brightness, gear crispness, ease of charging, you'll notice these in daily use. And the cost isn't sticker shock for nothing. Would I recommend it? Yes. If you want a refined, fitness-oriented e-bike built for real life, not just commuting. If your main goal is a throttle-like experience or ultra-lightweight simplicity, there are cheaper or more minimalist options. But for what it does, blend pedaling joy, comfort, and reliable support, the Vado SL2 Carbon earns its place as a premium, fun, practical machine. Happy riding. I've been using the MiRider One for a few months now, and I'm ready to share the full picture, what it's like day to day, what it's great at, and where it falls short. Unboxing and first impressions. Taking the MiRider One out of its box felt more like unpacking something thoughtfully designed than delivered in a crumpled mess. It arrived mostly folded, with clear levers and connectors, and I didn't need any tools, just a bit of muscle and flipping latches. I was impressed by how quickly I could get it rolling. Unfold frame, stem, pedals, adjust seat, and off I went within a few minutes. Building a connection with the bike. Riding around town, it feels surprisingly stable. The 16-inch wheels pack a punch with Schwalbe tires and rear suspension, smoothing out cracks and cobbles. I'm about average height, and with a telescopic stem and seat post, I could dial in the feel that worked for me, and it proved adaptable for my partner too. It rides more like a full-size bike than you'd expect from something this compact. I recall doing 5-mile runs and I was relaxed, even on rough pavement. 5 power assist levels let me tune in just the right boost. Level 1 when I want to stretch legs, up to level 5 for steep starts. The thumb throttle is a smart touch. It gives you a quick surge, especially climbing curbs or pulling away. The motor has a gentle hum. Not silent, but hardly bothersome in a city setting. The claimed range is about 45 miles under ideal conditions. In my real-world rides, I average closer to 25 to 30 miles, especially with frequent hills or heavier assistance. In winter chill and headwinds, range dipped further. Some users reported halves in cold snaps. Charging takes around 2-3 hours. And since the battery is removable, I simply slid it out and charged indoors. Daily use. This bike really folds down small, low enough to fit in a car boot, under a desk, or into tight storage. Built-in magnets and a clip-on strap help keep it compact and secure. Rolling it folded is surprisingly smooth, using a tiny wheel near the crank. It's great for navigating train stations or malls. It comes standard with front light, mud guards, kickstand, even a bell. Smaller extras like the soft grips and gel saddle make everyday use nicer. The single-speed setup eliminates gear fiddles and grease concerns. I don't miss gears for city use, but I can see how serious hill climbers might. Realistic limitations. At about 17 kilograms, it's heavier than a non-electric bike, and you'll feel it when lifting it into trunks or carrying upstairs. Nothing major, but you will notice the gentle whirring, more than silent belt drives, but not alarming. It has mechanical disc brakes. They pull well, but need a firm squeeze, especially in wet weather, and can feel just a touch behind hydraulic systems. If your route includes lots of hills or starts, you'll burn battery faster. Commuters may hit 20 to 25 miles on a charge in colder weather. There's no dedicated smartphone app or navigation overlay. You'll use your own phone mount and map app, Google Maps, or similar. Final thoughts. MiRider One shines in urban, mixed-use ride contexts, commute, errands, train linking, weekend outings. It folds fast, rides comfortably, and the power assist is adjustable enough for every need. The motor hums and the bike is a bit hefty, but if you're okay folding and moving it around, those are minor trade-offs. I'm glad the standard accessory spared me trips to the store. My commute, 10 miles round trip, fits perfectly within its sweet spot range, even in winter. But if you regularly do 30-plus mile rides or need ultralight carry, this might not be your best match. Pros: quick, intuitive folding and compact storage, adjustable ride positions, one size fits most, smooth assist levels and handy thumb throttle, sturdy build, reliable accessories included. Cons: heavy to lift. Disc brakes require firm pulls, especially when wet. Battery range dips in hills and cold weather. Slightly noisy motor. Lacks app GPS features. Verdict: I found the MiRider One to be a practical, well-rounded companion for city life. It's not a weekend warrior's bike or a lightweight to carry long distances, but for daily commuting, shopping, train rides, or just cruising around town, it's been reliable and pleasantly engaging to ride. If you value portability, ease of use, and comfort, and can live without a gear system or navigation app, this bike might be the honest, dependable ride you're looking for.
I decided to get the RadCity 5 Plus after spending weeks researching electric commuter bikes. I live in a busy urban area where traffic is constant, and I wanted something that could help me get to work, run errands, and enjoy weekend rides, all without arriving sweaty or exhausted. What attracted me to this bike was the mix of features, brand reputation, and what seemed like good value for the money. I had read a lot about rad power bikes being reliable, and the 750-watt motor sounded promising for the kind of mild hills I face. The built-in rear rack and front suspension fork also made it look more practical for city use. I'm not someone who needs top-tier specs, I just wanted something that works well and makes my life easier. Riding experience in the city. Once I started riding the RadCity 5 Plus, the first thing I noticed was how comfortable it felt. The upright riding position suits city traffic, and the handlebars are adjustable, so I found a position that didn't strain my back or wrists. The saddle is fairly padded, and although I've had softer ones before, I didn't feel sore after longer rides. The motor assistance kicks in smoothly. It doesn't jerk or startle me when it kicks on. On flat roads, the ride is quiet and easy, and I can cruise at around 18 to 20 miles per hour without much effort. The power feels strong enough for most situations. However, when I hit steeper hills, especially if I've got groceries on the rear rack, I do notice the motor starts to struggle a bit. It's not that it can't handle it, it just takes a bit longer and doesn't feel as powerful as I expected from a 750-watt motor. That said, I still get up those hills without having to walk the bike. Battery life and charging. Battery range has been decent for my needs. I ride about 5 to 8 miles each way during the week, and I only need to charge the battery every few days. On weekends, if I go on longer rides, I'll top it off beforehand just to be safe. I've never run out of battery unexpectedly, but I also don't push it to the limit. The battery is semi-integrated, which looks better than the old bulky style, but it's still a bit awkward compared to fully integrated designs I've seen on more expensive bikes. Taking the battery out for charging is easy enough, though I wish it felt more solid when clicked back in. It doesn't feel loose, but it could feel a bit more locked in, if that makes sense. Still, it works just fine, and I've had no problems with charging or battery behavior so far. Build quality and components. The bike feels sturdy overall. I've ridden through some rough city streets, hit curbs, and even gone over a few potholes, and the frame holds up well. Nothing rattles or feels cheap. The hydraulic disc brakes are excellent, very responsive and reliable even in wet weather. I trust them, which makes a big difference when riding in traffic. One small issue I've noticed is with some of the smaller parts. For example, the kickstand started loosening after a couple of weeks, and I had to tighten it myself. Not a big deal, but it makes me wonder how durable some components will be over the long term. Also, I wish the headlight was a bit brighter. It's okay for being seen, but not great for lighting up darker paths. Comfort and everyday use. From a comfort standpoint, I'm pretty happy. The suspension fork softens up the ride just enough for city potholes and cracked pavement. The tires handle a mix of road and light gravel well, which gives me confidence if I cut through parks or take shortcuts on bumpy paths. I do appreciate the rear rack. It feels solid and can handle quite a bit of weight. I use it with 10-year bags and they stay secure even on rough streets. The bike is fairly heavy, which I noticed most when I had to carry it up some steps. It's not a problem during rides, but if you live in an upstairs apartment, it might be something to consider. Also, due to the size and weight, it's not super nimble, but that's a trade-off for the stability it offers. Final thoughts after a few months. After using the RadCity 5 Plus regularly for several months, I feel like I made a solid choice. It's not perfect, but it's dependable. It gets me where I need to go without hassle, and I actually look forward to riding it instead of dreading the commute. There are some things I wish were slightly better, like stronger hill climbing power and a more polished battery design, but nothing that makes me regret the purchase. If you're someone who wants an everyday e-bike for commuting and errands, and you're okay with a bike that leans more toward practical than flashy, the RadCity 5 Plus is worth considering. Just know that it's more of a steady worker than a speed machine. And that's honestly what I want.
I'm in my 60s and have always enjoyed biking, but in recent years, hills started to feel like mountains. I didn't want to give up riding, especially since it's one of the few things that really clears my mind and gets me moving. After doing some research, I ended up choosing the Specialized Turbo Vado SL 5.0. I picked it mainly because it's a lot lighter than most electric bikes, and I wanted something that still felt like a regular bike, not a motorcycle with pedals. First impressions. Right out of the box, the bike felt solid, but not heavy. I could actually lift it onto my car's bike rack without help, which is a big deal for me. I live in a condo, and carrying it up a few steps wasn't a struggle. The brushed aluminum finish looked really clean, and the frame didn't scream electric bike, which I liked. It's subtle in a good way. The motor is quiet, and you barely notice it's there when riding, except when it kicks in to help. The assistance feels like a soft tailwind. It's not jerky or overwhelming. I've used it in eco and sport mode most of the time, and both feel pretty natural. It just makes riding more enjoyable, especially when you're tired or facing a long hill. Daily riding experience. I usually go for 20 to 30 mile rides, mostly on back roads and paved trails, sometimes with mild gravel. The bike handles well. It feels stable and smooth, especially when shifting gears. I had to get used to how light it feels compared to other e-bikes I've tried, but now I appreciate how nimble it is. When I'm not using the motor, it still rolls easily. I've even turned the assist off for whole stretches when I'm feeling strong or just want to save battery. Climbing hills is much easier now. There are a couple of steep ones on my usual route that I used to avoid, but with the assist, I don't think twice. That said, I wouldn't say it powers you up the hill like some more powerful e-bikes might. It helps, but you still have to pedal and do your part. I'm okay with that. It still feels like a workout, just not a painful one. What I've added or changed. The seat that came with it wasn't the most comfortable for long rides, so I swapped it out for a cushier one. I also added a suspension seat post, which made a big difference on rougher paths. I wish the front had some kind of suspension too, especially when riding over cracks or gravel, but I've gotten used to it. I also added a small shopping basket and some better pedals. These changes made the bike feel more personal and better suited to my style of riding. Battery thoughts. The battery has been decent, but not amazing. On flat terrain and eco mode, I've gone around 45 miles without running out. When I'm doing more hills or using turbo mode, the range drops fast. There have been a few rides where I've turned the assist off just to make sure I get home with something left. I also bought the range extender, which helps, but even then, I'd say I average around 30 miles in hilly areas before I start to worry. If you live in a cold climate, just know the range will drop even more. That was a bit disappointing during winter rides. Limitations and things to know. The main downside for me has been the battery anxiety, especially when I don't know exactly how far I'll be going. It's hard to relax and enjoy the ride when you're watching the battery percentage drop faster than expected. I also think it could use more climbing power on really steep hills. Even with the motor in turbo mode, it sometimes feels like it's running out of steam. Another thing that bugs me is the lighting. The built-in lights are bright and turn on automatically, but I can't seem to turn them off, even when I want to conserve energy. There's also no high beam option, which would be helpful on dark roads. And finally, I wish it came with a built-in lock or security system. For a bike at this price point, that feels like something that should be included. Final thoughts. Overall, the Turbo Vado SL5 has helped me enjoy biking again. I feel more independent, I can keep up with younger riders, and I'm out on the road more often than I was before. It doesn't do everything perfectly. Battery range and hill power could be better, but it hits a sweet spot for someone like me who still wants to pedal and feel like I'm riding a real bike. If you're an older rider or just someone looking for a lighter e-bike that feels natural and smooth, this one is worth a try. Just be ready to make a few tweaks and plan your rides around the battery. It's not perfect, but for me, it's been a really good companion.